you can get started, Joe.
All right. Well, hello and welcome to Hot Takes. Hot Takes. Hot Takes. I was going to do a super cool music bed and maybe like a jingle and possibly a rap, but I didn't have time. If you don't already know, Hot Takes is a show in which employees of the advertising agency 116 and West go live on YouTube and Instagram. We do it monthly, and we answer your burning questions about skills, expertise, marketing, agency life, and drinking. Scratch that last one. We don't answer questions about that. Those are trade secrets. So today you've got me. My name is Jody Sally. I have two girls' names. So the boy named Sue song, it's kind of like my life a little bit. And I'm standing up, which for those of you that know me is really funny. So as you can guess right away, if you don't know me and you're like, this guy's mildly funny, it's true, which I'll get into later. So let's start. I don't think I've got any questions over in the YouTube, but I do have a couple of questions to get started. So first, a few things about myself. I am a creative, passionate person. I love all things creative. I am an agency guy. I'm a dad. I'm a coach. I am, gosh, what else? I'm not tall, dark, and handsome, so I have to use my wit and charm a lot more than normal. One of the first questions we had was, what is my background and my education? So I'm kind of like a jack of all trades in a couple ways. I was a kid in high school that like I could hang out with anybody. I can take apart a motor and put it back together or install a transmission. I can drywall. I can write a song and play it on guitar. I can do all kinds of fun stuff, but I love learning. So at the end of the day, you could say I'm just a student of life. I love communication and how just humans communicate. What are the things that have just a value in what we retain? Obviously, that's pretty important in marketing. So my background, as far as education goes, high school, obviously. Then I went to college. I was going to be a graphic designer for a hot minute. And then I did all the lower division of graphic design. And then I was like, I don't know if I want to be a graphic designer. And so I dumped out of that and decided to be an art teacher, which would have been awesome, except for student teaching. And I didn't get along. So I didn't become an art teacher. Meanwhile, the other hand, I was doing radio. So I got a job working in radio before I graduated high school and was like, that'd be a really fun job. That'd be awesome. And so I started working in radio when I was almost 18. And then I spent 23 years in a career in radio and had an absolute blast. But the interesting thing is I also did music all the way through my education. So there's some teaching in there. There's some music and music theory and how music intertwines itself into everything. And then obviously the creative elements of art. So I wanted to be an art teacher. So anyway, that's a little bit of background about me. How I got in production is probably a little bit different than some. Some people just, they stumble into it, and some people really, really want to do it. I was kind of a little bit more of the stumble route. I worked as a DJ on a number of different radio stations over the first probably 10 to 14 years of my career. And when the production guy would go on vacation, somehow I got pegged as the guy to fill in for him. I don't know how that worked. Anyway, I really, really liked it. I really liked the writing aspect of it. It's a really good mix of being pretty darn anal in terms of your writing. Because if you're being forced to write a concise message that's exactly 30 seconds, that's hard to do. And then at the same time, there's 1,000 right answers in terms of your creativity. So I love just the mix of that, of being highly organized. It's kind of the best left brain, right brain type of a deal. So in Radioland, I was on a morning show with Mike and Kate. So before it was Mike and Kate, and they were a huge morning show for a long, long time, it was Mike, Kate, and Jody, which was by far a much better morning show. for obvious reasons. But as morning show radio goes, they bolted to another radio station, and I got to find out in a meeting because I didn't know before. And that opened up a door where I was able to become the full-time production director of a 6 radio station cluster here in Boise. And that, as they say, is history. So that's how I kind of got into production. If I were to give advice to people about getting into production, if you've got talent, if you've got a desire, if you've got an ear for things and you hear things, not voices, because that's different, but if you hear things in the way that they're constructed, there's just people that are really, really gifted, is the way I would put it. Follow that lead. And by the way, hi everybody that's waving. It's nice to see you guys. Yeah, I'm talking to you. So there's giftings, there's how do you sharpen that blade? I use that analogy a lot. It is a constant sharpening and a constant learning of figuring out what works, why does it work, why doesn't it work, right? If I bring a hammer to the project, but I need to saw something down, it's not a smart way to do it because you don't have the right tool, right? So just figuring that out. So discovering that you're talented at it, discovering that you like it. The other thing is persistence. Anything worth doing right takes time. If you want to be really, really good at something, it's going to take you 10,000 hours to be an expert on this. There isn't a shortcut. You just got to put in the time to learn how to do it and do it right. And the best product takes time. Moving on to our next question. Most valuable skill set you have for working in production. This is kind of I would say the most valuable skill set is right here. That's right here. If you get it, if you hear it, if you've got the vision of what it is that you want as a director, Tosh, I'll get to your question in a little bit as far as process. If you can hear it and see it, that's the first step. If you can't hear it and you don't know what it sounds like, you're going to suck as a director because you're searching for what you're looking for. So when I'm writing, as far as Tosh, a little bit of the answer to your question, when I'm writing something, I hear it in my head, which drives people like Cassie crazy because my head and grammar don't exactly coexist all the time. But the reality is real conversation isn't grammatically correct. So you have to find the balance of, hey, there's an art form and a performance element to good production while keeping grammar, right, and good communication. Definitely, I hold it in an open hand. It's not going to be such a hard line that I'll never not be grammatically correct or grammatically incorrect. It's all part of a balance, right? There's going to be characters that I may write into an ad that are intentionally a big goober for creative reasons. Their grammar is not going to be that good. That's just an element of humor that's kind of written into it. So as far as the skill set, and I'm talking really on the big picture side of it, there's the writing element of the vision of what you're doing. There's the production element. And yes, 10,000 is an exact number of hours. And you can get an app that'll count that on your phone. It's kind of like a stair stepper thing, but different. So to answer that question, I completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, which that'll happen. Here's the beauty of it. There's 100 right answers. No, that's not an exact number. There's going to be so many right answers. It's finding the best right answer for what you're doing in terms of that process. I'm writing to a specific target. Then what do I hear in my head? How does that translate? And does it translate to the right audience? Because sometimes what I have in my head, obviously my worldview is going to color that. So I have to be really, really intentional about understanding who is my target audience and what are those things that are valuable to them? What are the things that are foundational in their immediate, I call it a radar, right? What's in my immediate radar? If I'm talking about what are we having for Thanksgiving dinner? The answer is, I don't have a clue, probably turkey, but it's July and I'm not planning on that. That's my timing radar. I have to know what's relevant, what is to identify that target, right? So if I'm writing that, that's my first step in terms of the process. Then I can move on to who voices it. What does that voice sound like? Does it sound like James Earl Jones, or does it sound like a raspy female voice? Who am I talking to? Why does it matter? It's asking all those questions of how can I get the most resonant message that's targeted to a specific audience to tie on enough little tie-ons in terms of being relevant to that person that it'll stick, that it can be memorable. Let's look at a couple other questions there. Knowledge on software. Here's the deal, man. YouTube will teach you anything. So you can go learn whatever you want to learn in terms of the software. And that's just, I mean, it's just a tool, right? So there's 5 different audio editors that you can use that are all really, really good. And you get a lot of people that are like, well, I use Pro Tools. Good for you. Pro Tools is an amazing program. Sometimes it's like bringing a tank to a knife fight. Sometimes you don't need it. If you're producing music, yeah, Pro Tools is amazing. Audacity is a free audio software you can get off of the interwebs. It works great. It'll allow you to do all kinds of things. At the end of the day, you can produce really high quality audio content with free software and a halfway decent mic. I mean, again, it comes back to the most valuable aspect of this is, what are you creating? Is it up here? Do you hear it? Do you see it? And can you execute on that? So let's see. Checking out a couple of questions. What was your favorite experience in production? Favorite memory or character voices? One of the coolest experience that I had was a guy named Scott Glenn. He is an actor that lives up in the Sun Valley area. He was hired to do some voice work for a company that was a national account, and they were looking for a studio to record it in. I ended up being in that studio, and so I got to produce him, and then they sent it over an ISDN line, and they produced it off-site. But I got to be a fly on the wall to hear the back and forth of a really, really good director, actually a team of people on one end of this call. We're sitting in a studio recording the audio, and Scott Glenn is voicing the voiceover. And it was fascinating to watch the subtlety of a guy that is, I mean, he's been in a bunch of movies. He was in The Hunt for Red October, Sucker Punch. He's kind of an interesting character in that. He's Backdraft. He's been in a number of pretty cool movies. But his acting ability, and I'll kind of circle back around to this of what makes a good voiceover artist. Your little teaser is, find your character. You're not an announcer, you're a character. That's a really, really big deal. So when you come into a studio, who are you? You're not just reading a script. You are a character performing an audio performance that I happen to be recording, and then we get to do it again and again and again and again. And then I get to chop it all up and cherry pick out all of the really cool elements that make it perfect. I never use one full read from the beginning to the end. I never do it because I don't have to. I have software that allows me to chop that up. And the reality is I can do it in a way that you would never, ever know. That's part of that expertise in doing that. So watching him interpret what the director was looking for and then watching them collaborate, that was the first time that I saw what I would consider a really good voiceover artist. At the end of the day, he was a great actor that had a unique, cool voice. That's what the texture of what the director's vision and the writer's vision, that's what they heard in their head. And that's what he executed really, really well, which is, it was really cool to be part of. So that's on that side of it. Some of the other fun projects that I've got to work on, that I've gotten to do some of the voice work. There's been the Idaho Steelheads has been a client that I've worked on for, golly, 12, 13 years. And sometimes we do kind of straight announcer type stuff. Sometimes we do we did kind of a New York voice, kind of like this. Hey, how you doing? Just to create a little bit of interest. Somebody asked me why'd you do that voice on the Idaho Steelhead stuff? Because it was interesting and because that voice isn't on the radio. So why not? You got kind of this tough guy, hockey. Yeah, hockey, right? Oh yeah, I like hockey. You like hockey? I love hockey. Smack talking. Oh yeah, right? It's just there's a personality to the read that why not? Just again, it's finding one of those correct answers. I could have done it in 5 different voices. Pick one, right? So Pucky indeed. Hi everybody, it's Pucky. He sounds kind of like Mickey Mouse. You could do Pucky in a whole bunch of cool voices. Pucky, by the way, was a mascot that we tried to get the Idaho Steelheads to do. They said no. We'd have like Mother Pucker and that. Well, anyway, I'll get down the road. So this, I'm going to play a little snippet of one of the other projects that I got to work on over the course of about probably 10 to 12 years was Haunted World. So this is one of those projects. Pittsburgh accent. I can't do a Pittsburgh accent. I can try. I'd have to work on it. So Haunted World it's obviously very narrow focus. It's Halloween. It's a haunted house. It is what it is. But here's the beauty of it. I get to be as creative and playful and scary and creepy, and I can use weird voices, right? I get to have a ton of fun where the character development of it is whatever I want it to be. So a little bit of background, the Haunted World developed this new section of Haunted World, and it was this giant room full of clowns, and it had like a black light and some strobe stuff and the fog machine. It was creepy as shit. But how do you present that over the radio, right? So one of the things Eddie talks about here at 116 and West is our TV is designed to show, not tell. Well, radio is different. It's designed to paint a picture with words so that I can use your imagination, which, by the way, is a $1 billion budget of production of what your brain can think up. All I got to do is lead you a certain direction, and you will fill in all of the blanks in terms of your concept closure of what you see, which is you can add sound effects. You can add very, very subtle things in terms of the audio production and in terms of some of the writing of creating that landscape, right? So for those of you that read Lord of the Rings, you had an idea of what all that stuff looked like. Peter Jackson had to make it fit that. That's why so many books you're like, that was okay. When they made it a movie, you're like, this wasn't as good. Like in my imagination, it was so much better. So from a writing point of view, I had to come up with a concept for what is this thing called that's got all these clowns in it? How do I present it in a creepy ass way that will make you want to go check it out, right? And then how do I have fun with it, right? So I didn't know what to call this thing, and the guy that I was working with, he had some lame ideas, and I was like, all right, we're gonna do this. So here's what I ended up. This is just the beginning of the commercial.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what is before you will shock and amaze. What is hidden in the veil of darkness will terrify. What lurks in the shadows of your nightmares has come to life. The darkness is waiting. Welcome to the chamber.
Okay, so a lot of fun, a lot of music, a lot of, scary. Welcome to the chamber. There's all kinds of things that I'm doing within the software on the computer to make that sound really cool. But if I can't hear that in my head, if I can't hear the creepy shit going on in that voiceover, it's not as effective, right? There's a little bit of a, yes, this guy. And he's got like a little bit of an accent. And then you got this creepy ass kid here.
The darkness is waiting.
Yeah, creepy, right? And all that is I call it a disruptor. It's something that's going. It gets really exciting, and then it just drops off. And then you got creepy ass kid that does one of these things. She's like, the darkness is waiting, which is creepy, right? You're driving in your car, you're listening in the shower, which is really creepy to listen in the shower to the radio, and you're like, oh shit, there's something gonna get me, right? Very successful in creating a creepy, weird, fun. It's exactly what it was supposed to be. Here's the funny thing, and I'll relate this to one of the other questions that I had seen. How do I deal with interesting clients? The client is like, why'd you call it the chamber? And I was like, because it is a chamber. Like, it doesn't matter what we call it. Like, own it. Whatever it is, it's not the chamber, it's the chamber, right? There's a difference in how you present that. It's the same exact word. But I could say it, yeah, it's the chamber, it's scary. Or I could say, it's the chamber, it's terrifying. Two totally different things. So that leads me to one of the other questions. How do I deal with tricky clients? Sometimes really it boils down to knowing what the real win is. There are clients that I've worked with that it's about their ego. And as soon as I figure that out, that's a great idea. We'll do that. At the end of the day, they cash the check. All you can do is present good ideas with strategy behind them. And here's the goal. Here's how we're going to get there. Here's how we measure the return on our investment. Again, it goes back around to there's a whole bunch of right answers on this. I tend to try and hold things with an open hand. I'll fight for my creative. And there's times where I've really, really fought for creative because I really believed in it. But at the end of the day, they're writing the check. And if they want it to be that way, that's their call. They're paying me as an audio guy, as a voiceover artist, as a whatever, for my expertise and my voiceover talent or whatever it happens to be. If you choose not to take that, that's okay, because it's your money. So I do have a pretty funny story about a tricky client, though. I came up with a really fun creative concept that was about... Oh, I can't get too many details? Okay. It's still a funny story. They didn't like my idea. And the reason they didn't like my idea is my idea was centered on husband and wife characters. The husband was a total nerd about Star Wars. And he's out there yelling at the furnace and trying to do Jedi mind tricks on the furnace. And then his wife's like, what are you doing? You're an idiot. And it's just this funny exchange. And it's just about a furnace thing. The client hated it because now the timing of this was really important because the timing was right before they re-released a bunch of Star Wars stuff. So it was what I call a current, right? There's conversations going on within the real world, and it's a current of conversation. If I can jump into that current, it's very efficient. If I have to spend energy to create that current, it's really hard to do. It takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. So understanding what's going on, the El Current, as I call it, if you can understand that and jump into that and leverage it, it's efficient and it's relevant. It's good, right? She hated Star Wars. So she wasn't willing to have fun with that, even though, I don't know, Star Wars was a fairly successful campaign. Because she didn't want to do it. And I had Chewbacca voices. The use of a cup, silly, right? But it works really, really well. It's understanding how the cup creates resonance. Weird. Or Yoda. Strong it was. The concept. Yes. All those voices were dialed in. It was a good concept. Never saw the light of day. And you know what you got to do? My idea. And that's it. The eyes in the universe. So maybe someday it'll come back. Who knows? Okay, let's see. Yes, Cassie is awesome. No, there's no trademark issues. He's Yoda. He's a Jedi Master. To recreate, no. It's an impersonation, Danielle.
Read the question out loud.
So Danielle says, is there trademark issues to recreate a Disney character's voice? because it's somebody, it's a character dorking around and doing an impression of it, my answer is no. So to me, that's one of those things. Again, it's pop culture. Am I utilizing, I mean, you could maybe make a case for it. I'm pretty sure that Disney's not going to come after me for saying something in a Yoda voice, because really a Yoda voice is just Frank Oz, and he's got all kinds of voices that all sound really similar. Like Fozzie Bear and Yoda, very similar. Okay. Let's see, what other questions? What makes a good radio ad? I hit on some of those things a little bit ago. Relevant, timely, intentional, identifying who your audience is and talking to that audience. If you start with a good script that is nailed down and intentional about who you're talking to as an audience, you're running it on the right station at the right time and the right frequency, you're going to be successful on that. Sometimes it's really about the content. If it's a call to action, it really depends. How strong is the call to action? We're going to give you 5% off. Woo! That's amazing. No one's going to bite on that because it's not worth it, right? You have to have a good call to action in order to really make that more impactful. And now branding, I would say, is that's a different deal. And that it's a constant thing. And it's very difficult radio-wise to quantify the value of branding in terms of yes, this is worth X amount of dollars. It's kind of like working out, right, Cassie?
Right.
It's very difficult to quantify the exact value of working out all the time. Your body knows the difference, and if you quit doing it, your muscles start to atrophy, and you may not notice it right away. Your branding is similar. If you quit advertising, you may not notice a significant decrease, but 2 years later, when your competition has spent money on their branding, you're losing ground, and you may not even realize it. So as far as a good radio ad, again, it comes back to who's your target, why, and are you executing on it? Is it memorable? If it's not memorable, but it's super, super funny and no one can remember like what it was, great radio ad might win an award. It's not necessarily a successful campaign. There's a difference. Can I chat about my kids and working with them on how that influences them? Christelle, great question. I'm really lucky. I have 3 crazy talented kids. So the little creepy kid that was like, I'm in the darkness. That's my daughter, Jalen, who is ridiculously talented and writes and produces her own music. And she's 14 or 15. I don't know how she is. She's 15. So here's the way that I look at it. There's tools in a toolbox in terms of your voiceover artists. My children, so I've got, right now they're 11, 13, and 15. So through the course of their life, they've gotten to do all kinds of voice work with me. I have a distinct advantage that I'm their dad, so I can be really hard on them as far as coaching them. I'm going to get into that next. I can get them to figure out who the character is for the ad, and they kill it. They're so talented. And here's the key. The reason that they're so talented is because they're playing. They're having fun. They're discovering. It's make-believe. That's all it is. At the end of the day, any voiceover artist that comes into the studio, you're playing. You get to play with your voice and you become a character for a chunk of time in your day to present a message to an audience. But what they figured out was, A, dad's mean, but B, it's make-believe. And I get to play this character. So one real brief story. I had Logan do a voiceover for a client that was very, very emotional. And he was talking about how, and he had the cutest raspy voice. And he was talking about how he misses his dad, and his dad finally came home. And they're at the airport, and I'm painting this picture audio-wise. You can hear the planes in the background. And then this really soft piano music bed starts, and you figure out really, really quick that this isn't a happy dad's come home spot. And as the storyline of this goes, he starts talking about all the things that his dad told him before he left, and you figure out, you concept close, that the dad is a military guy. And then you're like, oh no. And yeah, that's where it was going. The dad had come home, but the dad wasn't coming home the way that the family wanted it. And they were at the airport to receive, instead of the dad coming down the stairs, it was a casket coming out of the back of the plane. Dude, that story, that picture of seeing this kid standing next to his mom, holding her hand, like painting that mental picture in your head, and then hearing this raspy voice deliver this. I miss my dad today. He told me this, he told me that. I mean, it reached in and tore your heart out and held it up and was just like, oh my gosh. The client didn't want to air it because it was really emotional. And that's when I fought for it. I was like, no. You have to play this because it will absolutely stop what people are doing and get them out of their normal routine and get them to go, holy shit. Because that stuff happens. So watching Logan, who at the time was, God, he was maybe 6 or 7, get his head wrapped around the emotion of what was going on and deliver this voiceover was, whew, such a proud moment for me as a dad. But seeing how even a 7-year-old can find that character and kill the voiceover. I mean, it was amazing. It was so good. That was an extremely powerful chunk of audio that led into what they were doing. And it set a foundation, a context of what we were talking about. It was really good. It still gets me emotional. One of the coolest things, though, I played that for a number of people. I was shocked at the amount of people that their immediate comment, like most people cried. And then they're like, wow, how do I get involved? That's the success, right? I'm painting a picture. I'm emotionally drawing you in, and I'm playing off the fact that I know you're a good human. At the end of the day, there's a good heart in there. And once that person draws that in and makes it personal, what can I do? That's the win, right? That was the whole point of the ad, was to get you out of your run and get you to go, holy crap, that's something that's not any fun. How can I help? And that was a win. Let's go. Yeah. Let's find the best question. Why do jingles work, Dan Fran? Because that's the way we're wired, right? I like big butts and you cannot lie. You know the rest of the words, right? Sweet Caroline. You're supposed to sing it.
Sorry, I was doing this.
Oh, you got a bomb, right? Everybody knows how that stuff works. Music, when I approach a voiceover, everything's musical. When I produce anything, everything's musical. It's got a cadence to it. It's got a rhythm to it. There's an ebb and a flow. I want to play something super fast. Paul Harvey did God Made a Farmer long time ago. Go look it up. It's really awesome. But I want you to notice his cadence. He didn't just read a script. He performed something. So I want to play this really fast.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer.
Big pause.
God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, milk cows, work all day in the fields, milk cows again, eat supper, then go to town and stay past midnight at a meeting of the school board. So God made a farmer. God said, I need somebody willing to sit up all night with a newborn colt and watch it die, then dry his eyes and say, maybe next year.
The way that he weaves this in and goes back and forth, and he does this and he talks really fast and he lists all these things and dang it, and then he slows down and he brings it to this, and then he does this. He dries his eyes, right? And Paul Harvey wasn't being anything but Paul Harvey there. But the point of it is, his cadence and how he dances around and moves through it. It is a performance. He's not reading it. He's performing it. And there's a difference. Jingles work because that's part of how we're designed. That's the musical element. It's how we learn. A, B, C, D, E, F, right? There's a reason for that. There's songs that you know from being a kid that you still know. Transformers, more than meets the eye. I know Adam's singing on. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. That's 35 years old. It's still in my head. That's why jingles work. Favorite jingle? Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. Here's an interesting little piece of history. That slogan was written in the 50s. The jingle wasn't written until the 70s. Weird, right? When they introduced it as a jingle, they had a little character named Speedy, and he did his little thing. Sounded like this.
You worked too hard, you ate too much, the cheesecake made you greedy. Let your aching head and stomach hear this message from old Speedy. Alka-Seltzer, plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. Those Speedy bubbles relieve your upset stomach and headache fast. For acid indigestion alone, Alka-Seltzer Gold. Oh, what a relief it is. What a relief.
That's the full spot from 1976, right? Everybody remembers the plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. How many people remember there was a character named Speedy that went along with it? No one. So the point of it is jingles work because there's that interwoven into our DNA. At the same time, don't overdo it, right? It's like humor. Don't overdo it. It's like salt. If you put too much salt, you're going to ruin it. If you're counting on the humor to rescue your spot, may not work because humor is subjective. So anyway, I think that's pretty much it. Best advice for coaching voice talent, it's communicate your vision. And again, I circle back to the very beginning of where I started on this. As far as all audio and video producers, and there's so much integration between that, it is about your vision. It is about what you see and fighting for what you see. And how does that relate to your target audience? Do they resonate what your vision is? And you have to be empathetic. You have to understand who that audience is in order to make sure that that resonates. If it doesn't resonate, right, then you're missing the mark. You have to identify that target first, communicate that vision, and then communicate it to everybody involved. You have to sell that to the team. You have to sell it to the client. And sometimes, honestly, sometimes what's written down on a script does not translate because it's in your head. And you have to be able to translate that, right? Go back to the example of the creepy chamber thing for the haunted world. That written down on a script carries no weight. It's just words on paper. When it's produced and you are able to bring forth all of the stuff that's up here and how creepy that is, like the kid saying, in the darkness, like that's written out. You can't tell that it's a creepy kid whispering that's about to murder you because that's creepy. So anyway, vision, communicate your vision. Hands, they're important. I coach that all the time, right? I don't know what I'm doing. My palms always face the ceiling. I don't know. My tone goes up. If I'm talking about something, well, here's how you're going to do it, right? This is my palms face each other. Oh, but this, now I'm emphatic. Whatever it is that I'm saying, it's really, really important. And I have one hand facing the audience. Why? Palms up. I don't really know. But I do know this. This is the conclusion of Hot Takes with Mr. Jodes. Thank you for joining me. Or as we say, thanks for kicking it with me. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you would like to hear about next time. We got a lot of super talented people that work here at 116 and West with a ton of wisdom and expertise. I'm reading some more comments. I've gone from laughing, terrified, crying, back to laughing again. That is about being a human, Em, and that is the key. Understanding we're all humans, and that's how it works. And it's unlocking those emotions and being relevant. So I love that. Hit that subscribe button. It's worth it. And then find us on Twitter, we're on Insta and Facebook at 116 and West. Spell out the A&D West. That's all we've got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and have a great rest of your day. I think that's it. I'm going to end the stream in 3, 2,